Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J. Lauren Norris.
You look so dumb right now. Yeah, that's actually the lyrics to a song. And that's what we're going to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Stay tuned.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at StoryPowerAcademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training.
There is a retreat coming up that I want you to know about. It's called the Story Power Academy Retreat. This Story Power Retreat is about focusing on your communication skills, taking them to the next level. Discover, develop, draft, deploy, and deliver some of the best stories you've ever learned. You're going to listen, create, connect, relax, and reflect around this beautiful lake scene in Granbury, Texas. It's a chance to rejuvenate and refresh and start over with some of the best training you can possibly imagine around storytelling, leadership, and communication. Join us, get away, and relax. I'm J. Lauren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. I am not Rihanna from 2008, but that line is very powerful. You look so dumb right now. Let me ask you this question. How many times as a leader have you been put in a place where someone else set you up to look dumb? Maybe you did it all by yourself. Maybe you needed no help at all making a fool of yourself. There's an old phrase that says, it's better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. And I know many of people who, with the wrong word used, the wrong idea articulated, just completely derail their opportunity for success, or worse, destroy the success they've already achieved. My very first public speaking that anybody paid any attention to. Apparently, my mom says I started at like 7, lining up my stuffed animals along the side of the house and lecturing them. I have no idea what I would have been telling them at 7, but I'm sure they got an earful. But in high school, I injured my back playing football, and my senior year, all I could do was pick some other 4th period class that was an elective so that I could get through the year, and I chose speech. And so my very first speech, the teacher said, you can talk on any topic you want to. You got 10 minutes. You have 2 weeks to prepare. So I expect a 10-minute talk. You got 2 weeks to get it ready, whatever topic you want to. And there were magazine articles and newspapers and stuff all over the place. And I just picked one randomly. And I read the article, and it was all about pregnant women and the amount of care that they get. And I thought, that's a great topic. That would be awesome for me to talk about as a teenage boy with no kids. I did have a girlfriend, but not that kind of serious girlfriend. So I wrote the entire speech. I put the whole thing together. I presented the speech about how these young women were not getting any parental care. I finished the entire presentation, and the teacher looked at me and said, that was very compelling, but I'm curious, what was your original source? And so I dug the article out. I had clipped it out of the magazine and carried it around in my notebook for 2 weeks while I was writing, and I presented her the article. And she looked at the article, grabbed a highlighter, and highlighted the word that I had been not only pronouncing, but framing my entire speech around this failure of parental care in the lives of pregnant women and girls. And the word was not parental. It was prenatal. Yes, I wrote an entire speech, a very convincing, compelling, emotionally charged speech at 17 years old, 16 years old, about the failure of parental care in the lives of young pregnant moms. And the word wasn't parental, it was prenatal. It was the kind of care that they get from their doctor, the vitamins they should be taking, are they getting enough sleep? And I blame the parents instead of the phase of life. And that's a lesson you never unlearn. You know what I'm saying? And it would have been really easy, had Rihanna been around in 1986 when I wrote that speech, to say, you look so dumb right now, because it was the perfect moment to go, ha, 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 ha. See, here's something you need to know. When you're a leader, when you're an influencer, when you're successful in any right, when you're willing to take the stage, to step up where everyone can see you, the minute you allow yourself, or you intentionally place yourself into the limelight, into the spotlight, trolls and Trojans come out of the woodwork. Now, there's something you need to know about trolls and Trojans. They have a very similar MO. Their MO is find your weak spot. Now, for trolls, that's usually like a scattergun effect. It's like throwing spaghetti against the wall just to see what sticks. And the way they do that generally is social media, newspapers, articles, and rumor mills. Rumor mills may be in your local town, they may be in your church, they may be in your company, and maybe in your family. And a troll will very successfully find that one weak spot in your armor, that one place where you're not as fortified as you should be. Maybe it's your confidence. Maybe it's your past. Maybe it's your finances. Maybe it's your public speaking. Maybe it's your communication skills. Maybe it's the reputation that you have built, but you can't live up to. You've done a really good job of controlling what people think about you based on what you want them to think. But the who that you are behind what you want them to think, the substance just isn't there. And the challenge for any leader is the minute the troll finds that one frayed thread, that loop in the sweater, they never sear it off, burn it off, clip it off. No, they grab it and they pull. And they pull and they pull and they pull like a kitten with a new toy until the entire sweater unravels. And believe it or not, that's their intent. That's what they set out to do. Now, how you became their target, how that one loop, that one fray, that one thread in your life became their interest, that's another question. Because sometimes their only objective, their only intention is to get the attention of being a troll. They're perfectly okay with having no other reputation in life except that they will destroy you if they get the chance. They're like cockroaches in that way. They're going about their business and they don't care who the target is. Termites do not seek out the most expensive house in the neighborhood. They don't care. If there's wood, they want to eat it. They will destroy it till it falls down on top of itself. That's what they do. And they don't care who gets hurt in the process. Trolls are very much the same way. Now, a Trojan horse kind of takes a different approach, very similar approach, but for a different reason. See, a Trojan horse wants to get inside your operation, but they still need the same one thing, and that is a weakness. For them, it may not be that one thread that they just pull on and unravel. It may be that one door hinge that you've left unattended for a while. You know that it squeaks, you know that it rattles, you know that sometimes going in and out of that doorway, you have to lift up the door because you can't even get the knob to turn because of the weight of the door resting on the rabbit. The rabbit's the little latch thing, yeah. The weight of the door resting on the rabbit, you got to lift it up to get it to open, or maybe it maybe it hangs at the top. And maybe for all the time that you've dealt with that door, you've just planed off the wood a little bit more so that it doesn't stick when you open it. You've never asked, why does the door lean? Is it a loose hinge? Is it a bad hinge? Is it a crack in the foundation? Is that wall actually separating? Maybe the wood inside the door frame has termites in it, but you're not asking that question. You just know that from time to time that one door makes a little extra noise. But you can't be bothered with dealing with that little extra noise in that door, so you just carry on with life and you can continue to go. And then what happens is, just like a vulnerability in your IT, in your data. I was reading in Laurel Langmeyer's book about when yes energy became a powerful thing in her life, and she talked about a snowstorm that hit the place where she lives, and This was decades ago, but it wiped out all of the electricity in town. And when the entire county, I believe is what she said. When the power came back on, the power surge hit so hard, it wiped out their mainframe. They lost their entire database and all their financial records and all their accounting. And they literally had to start over from scratch with every customer, every phone number, every email, every receipt, every tax document. They had to recreate from the historical receipts that they had been keeping as the backup, because the digital records were gone and the backup of the digital records went with them. They left together. See, that the maintenance of having all that stuff on site and not backed up off site as well is very much like having that one door that squeaks. You know it's there, you know it's a problem, you know it's been a problem, you know it's going to be a problem, but you don't really think about how big that problem is until you hire someone to come in and take a look at it. And maybe what happens is someone comes in and says, yeah, I can solve that problem for you, but you have termites, so you're going to have to solve that problem too. And while I can repair the door, I can't get rid of the termites. I'm a carpenter, not an exterminator. How many of you have hired a coach or an outside consultant who comes in and says, oh yeah, I see the problem. I identify the problem. I know exactly what the problem is, but I can't do anything about it. I can tell you what will happen if you don't deal with the problem. I can tell you even how you got to this point with the problem, but I can't undo the problem. And so now you got layers of things to solve. And the challenge often is that squeaking door, it's a symptom. It's a symptom that your hinges are off. It's a symptom that your foundation has moved. It's a symptom perhaps that you have termites, or that there's seismic activity that you haven't been able to register, but there's something happening in the shape of your building. And these symptoms are usually minor compared to the real problem that's being masked behind everything else. Now, in your leadership life, some of those symptoms don't sound like squeaky doors. They sound like stress. They sound like anxiety. They sound like medical problems like high blood pressure. They sound like a lack of sleep, a craving for foods that are not good for your body, or perhaps other substances, alcohol, drugs, antisocial behavior. These are things that we use to placate problems that we have, like a squeaky door. I'm stressed out about my job, so I'm going to hit the vape 12 more times. You know, if you watch this show very often, I love to watch cop videos. When I watch these cop videos, the number of times that someone who has just found themselves to be in trouble, it exploded from your turn signal is out to you have a warrant and you're going to jail and we're going to put your car in car jail, and all of this impending doom overwhelms this person who thought, well, I was just going to Walmart. Yeah, but you're driving on a suspended license and a car with no insurance and no registration. The only reason I pulled you over is because your turn signal didn't come on and I wasn't sure if it didn't work or if you didn't use it. But that one little slip up led to all this other discovery. It's kind of like the squeaky door that tells you your hinges are bad, and your hinges are bad because your door wall is rotten, and your wall is rotten because you got termites. And now you've got this much larger problem to deal with that really started with a turn signal. It started with a squeaky door. It started with, you ready for this? An outburst of anger in a board meeting because you're so stressed out about all the things that are going on, things that you haven't even talked to the people at work about. Some of it's personal, some of it's professional, some of it's deep down inside, and you've been shoving it down, painting over the termites, hiding the rust with Bondo. You're ignoring the deeper symptoms by just playing with the top symptoms, the surface symptoms. You're kind of like the guy that goes to the doctor and says, doctor, it hurts when I bend my elbow like this. And the doc says, prescription, don't bend your elbow like that. Oh, so I should just keep it stiff? Well, that's going to create other problems like atrophy. But hey, you know, if it doesn't present itself as a symptom right now, just ignore it. You know that you know people that do that. You might even brush that person's teeth every day. When you realize, though, that trolls and Trojans have a very similar MO, and that is to find that weak spot. They may be sitting on the outside looking at your symptoms. Wow, they really exploded with anger. Wow, they've got an issue with their vocabulary. They like to make up words, or they like to use words that don't mean what they think they mean. I'm going to watch that weakness like a squeaky door until something goes awry with that, because I know it's a pattern. And if it's a pattern, that means there's something behind it. It also means if they have done this more than once in a pattern, they will probably continue to do it if nothing changes. Now that's the advantage for both the Trojan and the Troll, because what they know is if that's a faltering leader who's failing in a particular relationship or failing in a particular job function or failing in a particular understanding, that's the vulnerability. That's the weak spot. That's the thread to unravel. That's the place to send in the Trojan horse. Yeah. Maybe the Trojan horse is a virus that attacks your database, because now that you've exposed that you only have one copy of your database and it's on premises, we could accidentally be the electric company next door just trying to replace somebody else's fuse box when we knock out the entire block. And now everything you had is gone. They call that industrial sabotage. It happens all the time, though. It happens when somebody leaves a Yelp review that trashes your business with an untruth. But if you've got a weakness, a vulnerability, a place in your life where the symptoms are telling you there's a deeper problem, but you just keep masking the symptoms with a little more paint, a little more Bondo, a new piece of wood trim, it may look like it's all good from the outside, but deep down inside there's a bigger problem that you're not quite dealing with. And trust me, when things happen like being caught on a kiss cam at a major sporting event, that problem didn't happen today. That happened way back there. And being caught may not have been an accident either. That may have been a very busy troll seeing to it that they were watching your every move just for that purpose. I mean, who knew those two people were not together? Who was watching kiss cam videos astutely enough to know those two people were not the same couple? See, somebody had their eye on that already. Somebody had already watched that weakness developing. Maybe they've been studying and analyzing every public presentation you've done for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, 10 years. And my teacher was astute enough to know that article sounded familiar. She'd probably read it. All the magazines came from her house. But she was also astute enough to know that the issues that I, as a teenage boy, having never been pregnant, having never been a mother, having never been a father at that point in my life, I didn't know that those two things were not interchangeable words, and I really didn't care. I just delivered an impassioned speech about a fictitious problem. How many people do you know in leadership who have a very similar ambition to rise up to the extent that they'll take the shortcuts? They'll blame other people. They'll take credit where they didn't earn it. They'll mask their personal problems. They'll hide those things. Almost every cop or detective movie, not the live videos, but the movies that you see, the underlying current is, Mel Gibson played cops in almost everything he did when he was young. And in almost every one of them, he had scars. Physical scars, emotional scars. He had issues from when he was a kid. He had issues with his dad. He had issues with an ex-wife or 3 or 5, with one that he lost along the way. They were written into the plot lines of the movie, not the actor. But the plot lines seem to be consistent. By the time you get here, you got baggage. And that baggage is always going to come up to haunt you. It's either going to be the crowbar somebody used to undo you, or it's going to be the crowbar that you used to undo yourself. You're going to say something that's going to be a slip up. Now, I'm going to tell you the strange antidote to all of this. You ready for this? Remember, trolls look for a weak spot. Trolls look for a chance to get something out there to unravel that you don't want the world to know about. Trojan horses, Trojans, they look for a chance to find that weak spot, to capitalize on it. to exploit it. They want to get inside your organization and undo it from the inside, to do battle inside. Maybe you hire them on your staff. Maybe you bring them on as a consultant or a coach, and they start to analyze things. They recognize weak spots and then point to another one. They're going to capitalize on this weak spot because they see it as a vulnerability. They're going to tell you about that one. I'm going to tell you, I can fix your door jamb. That's why your door is squeaking. I'm not going to tell you you have termites, but I'm going to work really hard to get a termite company to come here, an exterminator who's going to maybe plant some bugs that are not termites throughout your building. Because the Trojan horse wants to find your weak spot and get inside your organization to dismantle it, or to take whatever data or information they need. That's how that works. Vulnerabilities, VPNs, data securities, data backups, all of that information, that's public knowledge. So what's the antidote? What's the antidote to being human and frail and making mistakes? What's the way that you don't let your weaknesses be exposed to trolls and Trojans? You're going to think I'm crazy, but I want you to consider this theory. What if the way to keep your secrets from being exposed is to stop living a secret life? It's a thought, right? I mean, what if you were just more authentic in your life? What if you were more realistic with yourself and those around you? What if you were more honest, more transparent? What if you were intentionally vulnerable to the right people so they can see your weaknesses and help you fix them, rather than living a secret life, painting over, bondoing over the cancerous ideas, thoughts, notions, secret fears, anxieties that are eating you up from the inside? Instead of masking them, what if you dealt with them? What if you had a coach or a mentor in your life that truly cared about you? They've got no vested interest in the success or failure of your company. They're just concerned about you as a human. What if you had somebody like that in your life that you could be honest with and go, you know, sometimes I think about this. All right, maybe the appropriate approach to that is not to attack those who might expose it. You could do that. You could go after the trolls and spend all your life playing a game of whack-a-mole to identify all the trolls who want to bring you down, whether it's for nefarious reasons or because they got nothing better to do with their time. You could spend all your life hunting them. You could spend all your life telling people, that's not my secret, I don't know what they're talking about. Or you could get honest with yourself and go, so if it is a problem, why is it a problem? If that's something that could expose me to weakness that would destroy me, why don't I deal with it? And maybe you need to get over yourself and realize that as a leader, your failure isn't about you. But what if you fail and take down everybody who's following you? What if you fail or just get found out or just get unraveled by that little troll? What if that troll gets a hold of one thread of your life, and as they pull on it, everything comes apart, and it's not you that gets caught in the fire? What if you're just the net for thousands of others who depend on you? They depend on the products and services you offer. They depend on your wisdom, your insight, your knowledge. They depend on the value of your past experiences, good and bad, to save them from experiences of their own. Well, we see it all the time. Corporate leaders, military leaders, church leaders, they find themselves in a place where a whole lot of people are counting on them to succeed, and they can't do the job. Or they have a moral failure. Or they reach that Peter principle. You know what I'm talking about, the maximum level of competence. And then they stop. And they can't get you there from here. I don't know how. I'm not capable. I'm unwilling. Maybe it's an internal weakness that they have. Maybe it's their own self-confidence. Maybe it's competence. But see, when there are other people depending on a leader, that leader should be doing everything they can, not just to stay in power and in position because they like the benefit of being the leader, but because there are people who are counting on them to continue to take them in the direction they're going. What if your failure could have been stopped by a good inspector who said, excuse me, I see some termites in here. We might want to deal with that. I know you called me because your door is squeaky. I've got a good carpenter who can fix that, but let's deal with these termites. Let's look at the inner problems. Look at the emotional issues. You would be amazed how many people, especially men, have father issues, because we lost 2 generations at least of good, engaged fathers who brought discipline, who brought wisdom, who brought their own stupid mistakes to the table. Not for the purpose of looking at their kids and going, you look so dumb right now. But to look at them and go, you know, when I look dumb, it looked like this. You're headed the same direction. You should go the other way. Don't do that. I did that. It was a bad idea. It cost me a lot of time and success and opportunity. Don't do that now. Turn around and go the other way. That's what a father is supposed to do. That's what a leader is supposed to do. But the number of people who, because of their gifts and their charisma and their intellect and their ability to manage power, have been elevated to a place where people count on them. And they can't hold up under it because there's termites on the inside. They're still dealing with daddy issues, mommy issues, relational issues. Why do we see so many top-level leaders who have 2, 3, 4 marriages in the wake? Why do we see so few who can look back and say, I've been 45 years in business and 55 years married, or even 35 years married? If you've been in business 45 years, you were old enough to be married for 45 years, right? Maybe you waited a little longer. I get that. Maybe you've got a wake of bad relationship choices behind you. Offspring in different places, not being parented or taken care of well. That might be one of the things a troll is looking for to unravel. It might be a place where a Trojan horse comes in and says, well, I'm going to take advantage of that relationship from 3 marriages ago. I'm going to exploit the weaknesses there. I'm going to find out what they know about your current vulnerabilities. And then I'm going to blow those up and blow up your life. Again, maybe unintentionally, maybe nefariously, maybe they got nothing better to do with their time. But if as a leader, you're only worried about your reputation, your power, your influence, your income, your opportunities, and you're not even for a moment considering what happens to everybody else when you fail. Your motivations are, well, they're thin at best. But I can also tell you this, both from personal experience and from clients that I've worked with. There are a whole lot of people that hire me as a coach, and what they're thinking is, I'm going to help them paint the door jamb. I'm going to help them plane that wood off just a little bit, get rid of the squeak. I'm going to help them burnish off the end of that thread that's sticking out so that nobody can find it to pull on it. And what they find out is, I don't stop there most of the time. We start digging into those real things in your life, and we begin to find there be termites. Oh, and here's where they're coming from, and here's how they're getting in, and here's how we're going to stop them. Why? Because I'm not just concerned about the facade. I'm less concerned with how you look in the public. I'll tell you the truth. If I feel like you're doing a great job keeping up appearances. But the truth of the matter is, you're going to come home one day and your beautiful shell of a house is going to be falling down on the inside. You got just enough plaster, just enough sheetrock, just enough makeup to look good. But on the inside, it's crumbling. We've seen it in every capacity of life. Families, churches, businesses, political leaders, where people have done a really good job keeping up the facade, but on the inside they're crumbling. And the wake of that crumble, the implosion of that person, of that leader, of that influencer, it never stops with them. It brings down a lot of other people, some of whom were just gullible, and that's what made them vulnerable. Look, if you've got people who trust you, you've got to be willing to step back and go, what can I do to shore up my foundations? What can I do to fix the problems inside of me? It's not just the slip of the tongue. Yep, that's a weakness. It's not just a bad moment of outburst or emotional response to something. It's not just how you react when someone provokes you, because some of those trolls out there, they'll poke you in every way. They'll say things just to get under your skin. All they want to do is nag you like that little sibling. Stop touching me! And that's all they want to do in your life until you explode. Truth of the matter is, though, If you've been working on what's inside you, the story that you tell in the mirror and the story you tell in the media has a much better chance of survival. If you've been working on you, being a better you look so dumb right now, rolls like water off a duck's back. It's an opinion, but I know the truth, and so I don't care about your opinion. If I questioned that, if my ego was bruised by that statement, that's a me problem. I need to work on that. And if you get offended by that statement, that's a you problem. You need to work on that. I'm J. Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan